When I was growing up, I was talking about this early with our staff because, you know, we're doing what we're doing today, and I gave a message to them about what took place. When I was growing up, I watched my mom, she'd come at home, 6 o'clock, her aunties would come over. And I was 6, 7 years old, and they were Armenian. And they would come over and they would have the coffee. And they would sit down for 2 hours before my dad came home, and they would talk about how many things my dad was doing wrong. And how she needs to tell him, your husband's not doing this. He's not doing that. And I would sit there and I would listen. I'm 6, 7 years old. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are they saying this stuff about my dad? And I'm acting like I'm playing in the background, but I'm listening to every single thing, right? And then my dad would come home, and the aunties would be like, quiet. It's like, okay, we're going to go home. The moment the aunties left, guess what my dad and my mom would do? They'd get into the biggest fight.
Yeah, argue like crazy.
Biggest fight, terrible fight. And I know what caused the fight. And I was furious, but I didn't know what to say. Then I would go with my dad, and I'd be around his 2 brothers who never got married, and they would say, this is why we never get married. You should tell your wife what to do. Your wife shouldn't be telling you this. They don't, because we're in Iran. In Iran, wife doesn't tell husband anything.
This is while you were in Iran,
This is while I'm in Iran, and I would watch my uncles fire my dad up, and I'm in the back playing Legos, and I'm listening. I'm like, oh my gosh. Then we'd go home, and my mom and dad would be together. Guess what my dad would say? I can't believe this, and you know, I'm a man, and you got to tell me. I'm like, ooh, that was sponsored by the brothers. And then guess what happened to my parents? They got a divorce. As a kid, when I was 10 years old and my parents got a divorce, if anybody's gone through a divorce and they were at one point together, the kid's dream is for the mom and dad to get back together. You're kind of hoping that this happens because it's a heartbreak. You want to go to dinner with mom and dad. You want to go experience what it is to be our mom and dad. You want dad's footsteps coming up. From 10 years old till 21 years old, I can count how many nights I slept in the same place as my dad. 200-300 nights. I didn't see my dad. My dad, I saw him once every 2 weeks. He would come and park behind Virgil's. I was living off of Duran and Glendale in Glendale, California. He'd pick me up. We'd go there for one day Sunday. I'd come back home. Once every other week, he would pick me up. We'd go to places together. The entire thing was instigated by their families. Most divorces are caused by friends and parents. Most divorces are caused by family. This is why when we got married, my wife and I sat my mom down the night before we got married, and I told my mom something. I said, Mom, effective today, you're the number 1 woman in my life. Effective tomorrow, you are the number 2 woman in my life.
Boom.
And that changes. And don't even think about getting into our family at all. And I said the same thing to my wife's family. I said, your daughter and I are going to have many fights, but it's none of your business.
Wow.
And I said to my dad, I said, if I ever come to you bitching about my wife, I need you to defend my wife. Wow. And I said to my wife, if you ever go to your parents and you bitch about me, they have to defend me. If not, we're going to get a divorce. And I don't know about this marriage stuff because it's very complex.